Of course, the coronavirus and a big about-face from the president. After months of resisting, President Trump is taking new steps to acknowledge the severity of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, he announced the Republican National Convention celebrations in Jacksonville, Florida, will not take place as cases surge in that state.
This comes as the CDC announces new guidelines for schools to reopen after the president criticized the previous rules as too strict. And federal unemployment help is set to expire for millions of Americans unable to work unless Congress can break the deadlock. Ben Tracy is at the White House. Ben, what will the RNC look like now?
Well, good morning. So the delegates will still formally nominate President Trump in Charlotte, North Carolina, but the president was asked if he would deliver his big acceptance speech here at the White House. He did not deny that, but he said he'll make a formal announcement about the location in a couple of days.
It's just not right with what's happened recently, the flare-up in Florida. To have a big convention is not the right time.
In a sudden about-face, President Trump has been forced to bow to the reality of the coronavirus, canceling the Jacksonville portion of the convention. He says he's setting a good example.
It's hard for us to say we're going to have a lot of people packed in a room and then other people shouldn't do it. You are warriors. Thank you.
But just last month, the president held a rally in Tulsa. He filled an auditorium in Phoenix and has complained about not being able to hold large events. The president's desire for a packed convention night speech was hitting a wall of resistance in Florida, which is battling one of the worst outbreaks of the virus in the country. This week, the sheriff of Jacksonville said he could not guarantee the safety and security of the event.
The children obviously have a very strong immune system.
But the president has not stopped calling for schools to reopen, although he has softened his demand for places where the virus is surging.
Districts may need to delay reopening for a few weeks, and that's possible. That'll be up to governors.
The administration complained that the CDC's original guidance on schools reopening was too tough. Revised guidance issued Thursday now falls in line, stating COVID-19 poses relatively low risk to school-age children. It does recommend keeping students in pods to reduce the risk of spread, as well as social distancing, face masks, and hand hygiene.
There are more rules, it seems, to opening a restaurant safely than to opening your neighborhood elementary school.
Teachers' unions are frustrated and say the president cares more about the safety of his convention than the nation's schools.
It wasn't safe to put a whole bunch of rich and powerful people in that convention hall. Now, take the same advice from the Republican convention folks and apply that to a third grade.
Now, the White House is requesting $105 billion for schools from Congress in the next coronavirus relief bill. President Trump says that schools that don't reopen should not get any of that money. Instead, it should go to the parents, and they can then send their kids to private or charter schools. Anthony?
Ben, what's the status of the Republicans' proposal for the next round of relief?
Well, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell had hoped to unveil that proposal this week, but that's been delayed because they still don't have an agreement with the White House. They do seem to agree on that school funding. They seem to agree on about $16 billion in funding for testing, but a sticking point seems to be extending this $600 weekly federal unemployment benefit, and at what level they would do that. Once they come to an agreement, then the negotiations with the Democrats begins.
All right, Ben Tracy. Thank you, Ben.